that is something that I wish more athletes would do when they're at the CrossFit Games and in athletics in general, especially before the start of something. And but right before an event, right before like the standby, like if you get on there and we get the 1 minute call, just to stop for a second, take a deep breath, and glance up, especially when you're like on the Coliseum floor, you're in the tennis stadium or any of those arenas, and you see 10,000 sets of eyes staring at you. It can be crippling for some athletes. I get that. And so if it is, they keep their head down, that's fine. But if you can get outside of that and stop and breathe in the experience that there is 10,000 people staring at something that you now get to go do and express, it's a profound experience.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Invictus Mindset Podcast. Today's guest is one of CrossFit's most formidable and consistent competitors. He's now a 10 times CrossFit Games athlete, a former Division I football player at the University of Washington, a husband, a father, and the newest head coach of CompTrain, the man, Cole Sager. Welcome to the show, dude.
Bryce, thanks for having me, man. This is awesome. It's an honor to hop on this. I've got a lot of respect for you guys and Invictus just in general over the years. So this is cool. I'm happy to be here.
It's been quite the journey, and the concept of full effort, full victory is something that we've hung our hat on. And it's definitely something that you live by through example. So thanks for joining us today, and thanks for being such a classy competitor and all around good dude.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks, man.
Well, to begin our conversation, I think some people heard it right there at the end. It's, I guess, hot topic or popular news right now within the CrossFit space. And that is your longtime head coach of CompTrain, Ben Bergeron, has decided that he's going to switch gears a little bit. And that kind of positions you to be a little bit of an athlete coach. And obviously we can unpack this a little bit later, but when I say that out loud and it dances a little bit in your ears, what comes to mind? It's such a cool opportunity.
That is a cool opportunity. And I think that's one of the things that I'm most excited about is there's an open floor, and it's kind of an open, blank canvas that gets to be painted and created. And CompTrain already has, a long history and has been long-standing in the sport. And so I think to get to be a part of that and continue to build with them, whatever that is, whatever we decide to build, there's a lot of excitement that surrounds that. And so, it's a very big honor to be offered and given that position and have that opportunity. And I don't take opportunities lightly. I think that they're very, they're things that when opportunity is presented, you want to be ready for. You want to be prepared. And it's part of the reason why I have that quote on my wall in the garage. I will prepare and someday my chance will come. It's like the opportunity is going to come. It's, you're going to have opportunity come across your desk. And are you going to be prepared for it? Because if you are prepared for it and you can seize it, it might be something that radically shifts your world for the better and completely changes the trajectory of your life. And so that, it kind of feels like one of those moments for me of like, hey, obviously I've been competing, I've been studying the game. I approached CrossFit, and we can unpack that even further, but very similar to like the way that I approached football and the background of that. And so by the nature of it, I was preparing myself, not knowing for what per se, but then to be handed.
One of my favorite things that I'm hearing here is if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Yes.
And you've put in such a lifetime of reps, right? And it wasn't just reps for the outcome of I want to make the NFL or I want this much money in my bank account. It was basically sitting there sharpening the sword consistently over time, thinking, hey, when the day comes that I need to use this, you're damned, I'll be ready.
Precisely.
And it's cool to see, but it's also really cool to hear you say it, because we have 10 years now of observing you live that way. And I think that's where where you should put a lot of your credibility and the observations that other folks are now putting on this decade plus of courage, hope, faith, kindness, inclusivity. I mean, the adjectives go on, Cole.
Trident Coffee is sponsoring this episode of the Invictus Mindset Podcast. My guys over at Trident taught me something really important this last year, that we are all a bundle of stories, both good and bad, and everything in between. At Trident, they're storytellers. All of their cold brews remind their customers that they are part of something bigger than themselves. They help create connections through symbology and storytelling that engage their customers on an emotional level, and this distinguishes them from other coffee brands. You can find Trident in Imperial Beach and in Coronado. They offer over 14 plus nitro cold brews along with dairy-free options. You can find the perfect brew and pair it with one of their treats from their keto bakery. All these options will allow you to support your health and fitness journey with Trident Coffee. They're more than just a coffee company. You can check them out over at tridentcoffee.com and use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Once again, that's tridentcoffee.com. Use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Take your coffee experience to the next level. Two important factors for us over at Invictus Mindset are true care and attention to detail. My friends over at RX Smart Gear have been bringing innovative fitness tools to the market since 2009. From their award-winning Evo speed ropes to their amazing gymnastics grips to their line of inflatable fitness equipment, they're constantly looking to problem solve within the fitness industry. They're always allowing us to have our gear work for us rather than against us. Hop on over to RX Smart Gear and use discount code Invictus Mindset to shop their latest cutting edge gear. Have your gear work with you and not against you.
I'm pretty much a realist, so if those things weren't true, I'd be over here throwing you under the bus.
Totally.
But I definitely think you've not only shown these things on the competition floor, but you've done it behind the scenes as well. And what I'm really curious about is, where does this value system come from? What were your parents like? What were your siblings like that helped form these deep character traits that you've been able to live with?
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I think it's I know that it's an interesting topic in the cultural landscape of America right now, but a lot of that stems from a Christian faith, if you will, and it's hard because to say Christian faith, it's kind of a buzz topic in American culture right now. So some people used to hear the word Christian, you think of this far off camp on this side, or another group thinks that, and really what I mean,
the polarizing views are a little bit off, right? And like, you do it from a value system.
It's a value system, a principle. It's really honing in on the principles that Christ laid out in the Gospels kind of idea. And they gripped me when I was a young man. And what it really stemmed from is and you started to touch on it with my parents. I have incredible parents, just the most loving. There was no shortage of love in the house, no shortage of love. And there was a deep work ethic that my father laid out in front of us, but never talked about. He didn't beat it into us. He just lived it. He was the example of it. If something needed to be done, lawn needed to be mowed, car needed to be fixed, any of those types of projects, he got up and he went and did it, and he came back. And there was never a complaint about it. There was never a showboating or anything of the nature from him. He just went and did it. My mom, very much a hard worker as well. And so, a lot of those things were just living with them, seeing their example, and it just they pull you along. Like I didn't have a choice, it's like, they just pulled you that way. So, and then the love and the support that you had in the household. gave you a freedom to explore the world and to know that, like, okay, like we have the ability to make mistakes. But the great thing is my mom, coming from her background, she, had a life where she was like, hey, I got a lot of life experience, and she was very transparent about it. And that transparency was something that was so beautiful because it gave us an example of like, oh, if you follow that path, it leads to this. Like she was that example for us. And so she was like, she was transparent about that, said, if you need to go make your mistakes, go make them. This is where it leads because I made those mistakes. And guess what? When you get there, you have to own those. And it's like, if you get yourself in jail, I'm not getting you out. You got to figure that out yourself. She was very.
And also, it's just like it's a roadmap for what not to do.
Totally.
Right? And fear is a great motivator. Yeah. And so when she hints at like the potential outcome of making the wrong choice, totally, it definitely lives rent free between your ears. And you're kind of like, okay, I don't really want to play with that consequence, so I'll stay in this lane.
Exactly. And so anyways, that was the start of childhood, of kind of keeping you on a straight and narrow, like kind of like keeping you in your lane and on the right path, if you will. But then it was really like hearing some of the principles within the gospel message that really started to grip my heart. And not from like a popular culture sense, but more so like, wow, there's a way to operate really well within this world, and a way to treat people, and a way to see things in a framework that's kind of like being laid out in front of me that, like, interesting. Like and it piqued my curiosity. And so that was really kind of I think the driver for me into developing me as a young man and growing up through high school and leading to some of the social engagements in ways that I started to interact with my peers and cohorts and things like that. Because it really like.
What was your relationship like with your siblings, and how did you kind of form like this competitive instinct? Because I know, being the youngest of three, I always felt like, man, if I could beat my brother, I could beat anybody.
Yeah, that's actually, I really like what you just said there, because I have an older brother of 3 years older than me, and then a younger brother who's 2 years younger than me.
So you're running from one and chasing the other.
Exactly. And then they team up on you, and then you're running from both.
Yeah, there you go.
So it was one of those dynamics where, like, if me and my little brother started to get into like a little tussle or something, my older brother would always take his side, and now I'm against both of them. I was like, well, that's not fair. And then if I was getting in it with my older brother, well, my little brother didn't care. Like, he was just like, well, you deserve it. So it's like, this is, what the heck, who's on my side? But we all had great relationships growing up, normal brother things, hitting each other with broomsticks and chairs and stuff, whenever you need to.
They're little love taps, man. They're forming your character at a young age.
Nothing too crazy.
Did you guys ever play one-on-one tackle football? My brother and I definitely did that.
We did for a short period of time. Me and my older brother were playing football. We got into football at the same time. And so like we would take our pads, like we would, and like just full on get on in the trenches together and see who could like hit each other and push each other back. So that was, but again, like it goes back to kind of what you were saying, is like, I had somebody to chase. I had somebody that was older than me, bigger than me. And I was like, if I can keep up with Demetrius, like I can be better than my cohorts and, the kids in my grade and whatnot. I also had a really interesting dynamic where I was a little old for my age, and in my small town, we didn't go off of grades for sports. We went off of age until you got to high school. And so I played sports with an older group than my class. So when I got to high school, it actually felt like I kind of like that class came up to where I was athletically.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And it's such a formidable age, because it's at that time where it's like, some kids are going through puberty earlier, some kids are going through it younger. And so the maturity level definitely plays a factor in size, and speed for sure.
In a big way. And so it's like, honestly, like if you want your kid to be good in athletics and they're on the cusp of that cut line for age, just hold him back a year. Like it's effective. But I kind of had a little bit of that. So, I was always trying to play with my brother and his friends, and them being 3 years older than me, they beat me up, beat me around, not in a bad way, but like they put me through the ringer, and I had to keep up if I wanted to hang out, and that was that was a good.
How'd that form your mindset a little bit in like your relationship with failure, right? Because obviously, with them being 3 years older, you probably collected a few L's.
Oh yeah.
Early on.
Oh yeah.
And how did you navigate that? Was it I'm gonna get him, or like what was the intrinsic motivation? Did you run to mom and dad for consultation so that they could help steer the ship a little bit, or was it just Cole against the world at that time?
My mom is a very straight shooter, always was. So it was like, here's an example. I was like, we had these steep stairs in our house that were carpeted, and we had cardboard, and we were sitting on the cardboard and sliding down the stairs way too fast, that kind of thing. And
Home Alone style.
Yeah, totally. And I just went for it one of these times, and I went right into the wall on the other side of the staircase, and like I saw all sorts of stars, and it was the hardest I'd ever been hit in the head, and I was kind of concerned as a kid. I was younger at this time, and my mom, like I went running to my mom, kind of crying, and she was like, "Well, that was stupid. Why'd you do that?" Like, and it was like one of those things of like, these are your consequences. Like that's what happens, And she's also, like I told you, there was no shortage of love. So there wasn't like, she was like, okay, like come here, whatnot. But it was kind of that mold of, if I couldn't keep up and I was getting losses with my brother, she was like, well, I mean, that's the way it is. You gotta, and she would coach me through, and she would parent me in that, whatever she felt like she needed to say at the time. But she didn't give sympathy. It was like, well, that's kind of what life is, dude. Like you want to hang with the big guys, then you got to try to run with them, and you got to get back up when they knock you down. And she was really just honest and real and transparent about those life principles that she just kind of was just dripping into me, unintentionally, just wisdom, just being shared. And that really,
it's funny too, because like the little statements that our parents say when we're young, they start to repeat a little bit, and we're like, can you just stop saying that? My mom's favorite one was "do it right" before we ever left the house. And I find myself saying that all the time, like just do the next right thing, put your grocery cart away, like just little small things that make the world a better place, that actually bleed into so many other aspects of life. And now I'm old enough to remind her how awesome she is, but at the time I was like, can you stop saying the same thing?
I know exactly what you're saying. That's great.
That's funny, man. Well, as you started to mature, and obviously people in the small town that you grew up started to take notice. Mm-hmm. You started to perform very well in the sport of football, which anytime you're performing well in sport, especially on the gridiron, attention's going to come. There's going to be positive attention, there's going to be negative attention, and then with that comes a little bit of pressure, a little bit of expectation as to this is how you're supposed to act. What was that experience like as you started to move up in the ranks? I'm sure recruiters started knocking on your door, your phone started ringing, letters were showing up to the house. How did that affect you personally, and what was that journey like?
Actually, there was an experience, and we've alluded to it with parents and whatnot, but I've always kind of been a believer that it takes a community to raise any child, and especially to raise a child well, and I feel like there's always a handful of interactions that you get throughout every person's life, especially when they're young and developing, that were kind of a catalyst to something for them, to maybe the way that they begin to behave the rest of their life, or really kind of beckon them forward to operate in a better way. And I had a counselor in high school. I believe it was my freshman year, but there was an interaction, kind of an altercation in the hallway that I was involved in, and it wasn't anything super serious, but it was one of those scenarios where, like, when you walk away from it, you can just be embarrassed by how it was handled and the altercation at large, and not super serious, but he pulled me aside anyway and was like, "You're better than that. You behave better than that, and you should behave better than that, and I expect more of you. Like, do better than that." And it wasn't this like, you should, it was a command. And it's interesting because I felt like it was him saying, I see something in you that you may not understand yet, that you may not see in you, but it's there, and honor that, respect it, and cultivate it moving forward. And it really opened my, like, it moved me. It truly moved me of like, oh, there's something there. He's pointing at something, and I should look at that. And my mom was she was always dripping at things like that as well. But to have somebody else, another male who didn't really know me much, but other than a few interactions at the high school and stuff, to really call that out. And I mean, because of that, like, me and that counselor became friends. Like, we talked a lot, we caught up a lot. He like really helped be a guiding light through high school, or a guiding hand through high school.
Just shows that one of the greatest gifts that you can give another human is true belief.
Yes.
Like, helping them understand that, like, you have this light, and I'm going to help pull that out of you so you can share your gifts with the
100%.
world. And sometimes our lenses, we can't see that in ourselves. And that's so incredibly special that you got to share that experience. It also goes to show that through tough things come good things sometimes.
Totally.
And they're not always sexy. They don't always feel good. They're not always things that like make us feel warm and fuzzy and get that ear to ear smile. But somewhere through that experience enables us to, in your case, catapult the rest of your life.
Absolutely. And honestly, what it also created in me was like, I now want to be that person that is not only able to, but was also willing to see the best parts of people and then call those out and acknowledge those for people. So I'm always looking at like what's good about this person? Like, what's the good stuff?
I call that API, assume positive intent. Right? You give them a 10 out of 10, and then it's up to them and their behaviors to either maintain that, potentially exceed that, or diminish that over time through their actions.
This episode is brought to you by HVMN, Health via Modern Nutrition. They launched the world's first ketone drink in 2017, and then in 2022 launched the version 2 of their exogenous ketone product line called Ketone IQ. I found that incorporating ketones into my morning routine increased my daily focus and energy. The beauty of this product is that you can stack it. It doesn't even have to replace your morning routine. My morning routine looks like taking the dog on a walk, hitting my daily shot of Ketone IQ, hopping in the cold plunge, and then finishing it off with a nice Trident coffee while I soak up some morning sunlight. Try out some ketones for yourself by using the code Invictus for 20% off Ketone IQ. Ketones are a super efficient fuel for your brain that leaves you feeling energized and clear-headed. Give it a shot. I promise you won't regret it. Once again, use code Invictus for 20% off Ketone IQ. Move fast and break shit. This is one of the core values at LSKD and something that we fully resonate with here at the Invictus Mindset Podcast. LSKD develops functional sportswear with a streetwear aesthetic that's on a mission to inspire you to chase the vibe through sport, fitness, and adventure. Through my experiences with LSKD products and their team members, I have found a brand that I can call home that keeps me performing at my highest level through fitness and business. I train daily in the rep shorts and love the versatility they offer, so I can go from training at the gym directly to meetings, client consults, running errands, or preparing for podcasts. The LSKB vibe has finally reached San Diego, and we want you to experience it too. Go to us.lskd.co to start shopping today. We want to inspire you to chase the vibe.
But like genuine, like a genuine like belief and understanding that like I know that that's in you, like whether it be just I saw a little glimmer of it, a little bit of hope in it, but like it's there, and like I want to see more of that in the world. So why wouldn't I address that? It was done for me, and now so anyways, that is definitely something that I was very thankful for. And to go back to the question that started that down that storyline, I think because of that, it really honed in this internal pursuit in me to want to draw out the best possible natures that I could possibly find of myself, the best principle ways to live. And so when you start to get the popularity and the attention from the community, letters and recruiters and all of those things, I had already started to go down a path of internally looking to pursue something of depth and strength of character. And so because of that, those didn't really shake me too much because it was happening around me, and that was okay. I was good with that. But going back to this was also around the same time that I started to like be really gripped by the gospel message and some of the principles within there. And so all of the popularity is happening around me, and I'm seeing high school dramas and things like that. And it's like, well, that's not how we should be treating people. That's not how we should interact with people. And so like it was more so, and I think this is something that's been a gift in my whole life, this genuine curiosity of like, well, then what's the better way to handle this? How can I best do this? And I think that's the one thing that I'm still curious about where it came from, but there's a genuine curiosity that I've always had of like, well, there's a better way, and we could possibly do this better. And what could that be? And what if we did better? How good could the world and our social constructs become? And so, that's something that I've always found very interesting and I'm very thankful for. But I think it allowed for a level head throughout high school and that kind of that developing time.
It's holding the standard, right? It's the standard that you saw your father live. You got one of the best forms of learning, which is observational learning. You got to see it day in and day out. You got a mom that was a realist that's kept you in between the lines when you wanted to dance or when there was temptation available. And then you had a counselor that truly integrated this supreme level of belief that now you've made it part of your life mission to then not only live that way, but pull that out in others. And that's very special. And I think I've heard you talk about it a little bit. Like that's part of the Cole Sager story now, which is building a platform to then give other people a place to stand in their pursuits of their peak expression. And all of that is really honorable. But where I wanna take the conversation next is when you're at high school, you're getting the attention, there's this form of success. And I recently heard you define success as more of a feeling than an outcome, because it's easily defined by many people in various ways. Right? For some people, it's money. For some people, it's time. For some people, it's the freedom and flexibility to do what they want when they want. And then for some people, it's a combination of those things or completely outside of the realm of anything that I just mentioned. But with the variance there, it's not really defined. And so I'd love to hear and kind of chop it up with you a little bit around this concept of success, because it's a very toggled term that gets thrown around high-level athletics.
Totally, absolutely. And it's been such an interesting topic it's been preached at me since I started playing football at a high level. That's been like the last 20 years of my life is you have to have a definition of success and define it. And what I've found really interesting is when I got into my adult life is people were still telling me you need to have a definition of success and you need to pursue that, and it's your North Star and this, that, and the other. And they would share their definition of success, and then 3 months later or 6 months later or a year later, it would be different. And I was like, oh, wait a second, you said this was a North Star. That looks like it was like an Eastern Star because it just moved. I can't navigate off of that. and you can't either if it's changing and if it's constantly changing. And so that's what's really kind of been, to my statement of like, do we really know what this is and can we really define it? Maybe it's more of a feeling than it is an outcome, because I've seen success defined as outcome so many times, and then it change. It's like, okay, well that wasn't the guiding thing. So what is this like? And so that's part of, that's really kind of where my head has gone over the last 10 years.
I think the best version or definition that I've come across is by John Wooden. And I was fortunate in high school. He's from the LA area, so I got to sit with him for 3 hours one time at his home before he passed away. And one of the things that he said was that success is peace of mind, knowing that you did your very best to become the best that you're capable of becoming.
That's beautiful.
And quickly summarized, full effort is full victory.
Beautiful.
Maybe success isn't the outcome. It's who you become in the pursuit of trying to do something that's gently outside of your reach.
Totally. That's
right. And so much within our world, there's not an asterisk for not winning the championship. And everybody's just looking at the outcome. How many championships? How many times did you make the games? I would probably argue that who Cole Sager has become in the pursuit of 10 CrossFit Games appearances is probably better than just mentioning the 10 experiences.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's a hell of a better story.
Totally.
Right? And I think sometimes people forget that, and it's something that gets lost in the shuffle because it requires context, it requires time in a world that is 8 to 30 second attention spans. But I think that is the depth, right? You said you were in search of depth. Depth has roots. So that inevitably when life happens, the storm's not going to blow over the tree. It can withstand the storm.
Absolutely.
And it's pretty cool that you've gone down this path and lived it consistently over time. And something I want to share with our listeners, Cole, is, as you were trying to play Division I college football, you had a moment where you had an experience with a gentleman at your high school that was special needs, that operated gently differently than the social construct of other people within the school, which rose eyebrows and definitely led to a little bit of distancing. Will you mind sharing that story?
Yeah. So you're talking about Patrick. Patrick Duguay was one of my closest friends my senior year of high school, and he was special needs. His development level was just very delayed at the time, and he was also very small. Like physically and emotionally, his development was delayed. And so there was one summer me and a buddy of mine, we were out on the football field just getting ready for the season, and he came to the football field and was kind of like watching us, and we could see him off to the side, like kind of hiding behind the bleachers, like watching us do, and you could tell that he was really curious. And he looked like a really young boy. I didn't know he was in high school back then when I first met him, because he looked like he was probably like 7 years younger than he actually was. He, like, at one point in time, he ran out and he grabbed our shoes and he ran off with them, and then he went and hid them, and then like he's just kind of being a little stinker and whatnot. And that was my first interaction with him. I was like, who is this kid? And eventually, like, my friend has a great heart too. And so like we together were like, okay, like he kind of maybe wants some attention. Like, let's go see who he is. And we invited him to come play and throw the football with us and whatnot. Introduced ourselves, and then we didn't see him again for, long time, a couple months or something like that. And the school year started and whatnot. Well, then football season's going on, and he was a diehard football fan, and he heard my name over the loudspeakers during the game. He remembered who I was, and then because of that, when we got into school, like the actual school year and whatnot, he every Friday we would wear our football jerseys. So he saw my name, saw the name, my last name on the jersey and the number, and he put two and two together. Like, this is the kid, this is the guy that I saw on the football field. This is also the guy that I hear over the loudspeaker. and he really became attached to me for that reason. And his mind didn't go to like, I'm a fan, but like, this is now my person. I became his sibling for a time being, and then that formed into like, I'm his cousin. And because of that, he became like just really attached. And he was very rambunctious. He was a very rambunctious kid, and didn't have a lot of control over his emotions and his behavior. That was one of the things. He was just very high strung, and so he became protective of me. And like, this is like, Cole's my friend, my brother, my cousin. And so whenever like friends and stuff would want to come up to me, he was kind of attached to my hip in between classes or at lunch times and things like that. He would try to scare them off, yell at them, hit them, scratch at them, hiss at them, like anything to get them to go away. And I welcomed that. I was understanding of that there's no ill intent there, but instead a child who is just misunderstood for what's going on in his life. And because of that, because of my accepting of that, that was almost something that was off-putting to the rest of my social circle, if you will. And so it started to create for me a little bit of isolation, and where Patrick and I would eat lunch together. And it was, for the most part, just Patrick and I at lunch for the majority of my senior school year, until he really, like, maybe towards the end, like, he really started to understand that some of these people aren't out to steal Cole from me. They're just his friends too. And so like towards the end of the year, he would kind of let people come and sit with us at lunch kind of thing. But for the majority of my senior year, because, football season starts at the beginning of the school year, he that created that isolation that I was talking about. And so, but Patrick's impression on my life is so deep, and I contemplate it often, because it was really one of those things that really helped me understand how I want to operate in the world, especially around such a frivolous, fickle social environment that we tend to live in. That I just stopped caring about the popularity. I stopped caring because I have a deep value in my life, and that is the most important thing at any given time that is in front, that could ever be in front of you, is the human soul that is in front of you. It's the most important thing. There's nothing else that is more valuable at any given time. But the person that's right in front of you. And that was Patrick. He wanted every aspect of engagement with me, and he wanted to be accepted, and he wanted to be loved. And if anybody was willing to make an argument with me that there's something more valuable than that, I couldn't have agreed with them. And so that was a big, that was a very big experience for me going through high school in my senior year.
It's such a special story of inclusivity, refraining from judgment,
Mm-hmm.
seeking to understand,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that sometimes the external behaviors of people come from other things.
We are beyond excited to be working with Wizard Sciences for total brain and body optimization. This partnership came through personal experience with the benefits of their incredible product line and a deep human connection with their founder and former guest, Ion Mitchell. The Olympic RX supplement is created to enhance your overall training. When taking this, do not expect your body to feel different, but look for key indicators within workouts to see what this product can really do. I found increases in my strength and that I had an extra gear when working through tough cardio sessions. The Olympic contains beta-alanine, removes inflammation and oxidative stress at a mitochondrial level, increases muscle recruitment, and is full of carbon-60, which is considered the ultimate anti-aging and anti-inflammatory weapon available. Give Wizard Sciences a try and become as close to limitless as you can get. Use code Invictus Mindset for 15% off your order. Once again, that's Invictus Mindset for 15% off your order.
Totally.
And rather than just jumping to conclusions, you gave him the time and the energy and the bandwidth to kind of play ping pong with each other in a social setting.
Absolutely.
And I think that's gently misunderstood by people that are very concerned about an external image. And I actually really admire this. And it's got my wheels spinning a little bit over here around what a phenomenal lesson for you to learn before the onset of social media.
Yeah, right.
Right?
I think so too.
Because now, like, everybody's concerned about their image. You go into high-level CrossFit spaces and, like, there's cameras everywhere. There's TikToks, there's Reels. And some of it's really valuable. Some of it's really distracting. We could play that argument of both sides of the coin all day. There's definitely this perception of societal fame based on followers and status that comes with social media. And all those things are just a part of our society now. They're not good or bad. They just are. And what's cool for you is the fact that you had the lenses, the value system, and the curiosity to sit with that and be like, okay, if we're going to base our success based on image, that's fleeting. One day I'm not going to be an athlete and I'm just going to be cool. And I've spoken to so many high-level CrossFitters, professional athletes, authors, scientists on this listening tour. And something that I wanted to discuss with you is so much of the world gives love, recognition, and validation for the function of the individual rather than who they are as a human. And I've heard you gently mention that, the human component is very important to you, very important to me as well. Like when I coach people, like, yes, the X's and O's matter, energy systems matter, program design matters. But coaching the human first might be the most important aspect because the program that works is the one that people do. And if you're giving somebody this awesome small off squat program, but their knee hurts from playing hockey over the weekend, it doesn't really make sense. You're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole now. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this comparison or this relationship between loving people for function as opposed to just loving on them for who they are as a human.
I think on one front, being able to love on people for function, like that comes down to me also going back to the thing I was like, being prepared to be able to help somebody, to be able to have, and that is an aspect of my life that I am very, I would call myself a rather ambitious individual. And in that ambition, I believe in developing myself to a greater degree, always pursuing something. How can I better develop myself so that I have something more to give? And that's the intent. It's like, I want to have so much within me that it is flowing over, that it is like I'm so full and filled with whatever it is that I've developed, and hopefully it's compassion and love and empathy, and then through the knowledge that I've also gained, it just kind of pours out of me into other people's lives. So but being equipping yourself with that knowledge, with those understandings and insights, and wisdom wherever you can get that, that will help you be able to help people when the time comes. But if you don't have the value system of, I care about you first as a human being, you blunt the possibility to do that more often than not. Because that's what opens people up to being helped, is feeling like they're heard, feeling like they're listened, feeling like they're accepted. And that's one of the things in my life that I am so focused on, is getting and creating a safe place for people to just be what you are, to know that you're accepted. And whatever I am as a human, you interact with me, it's a safe space. I am here for you. You can be what you are, because if you have that, then there's the ability to change together. And then we're here together. And it's not that me change you, but necessarily I need to change too. I need to grow too. And
a rising tide lifts all boats.
We can do that together now. And so I don't want to be on a pulpit. I don't want to stand and be preachy down at somebody, but instead like, hey, like I will be in the trenches with you, and I will walk through whatever you're walking through. I will be here with you and do it together, kind of thing. And I just don't know that I've experienced any other form of character that is more honorable than that pursuit. And if I see it that way, then that's what I'm going to pursue. Like I'm going to pursue. I want to find the best thing that I can conjure up, and I want to pursue that. And yeah, so that's I mean that's really.
I've never heard it put that way. That like you can fill yourself with so much knowledge, resilience, hope, and high quality characteristics that inevitably they start to overflow to the community of people that you're surrounded by. I think that's a really cool thing to explore and share with people, because when life gets messy, I've heard so many people say, like, invest in yourself. And a part of that, I like pushed that away for a second, and I was like, yeah, that feels really selfish.
Yes.
But then when you sit with that for a moment, it's like, whoa, it's actually not. It's kind of like you plugging your iPhone in. Like you got to recharge, you got to get the juice, so that way you can then share and do cool things.
And I think
others.
That's
a really cool way.
I think there's a really important aspect there that I think that you painted pretty clear is there's an intent behind filling yourself up. It's not the selfish, like, oh, like I need to take care of me because I just need to take care of me and I want to take care of myself. It's not like, if you do that and you do that well, you can be of greater value to the world around you, and you can help people. But it's having that frame of mind and that intent in the beginning of, I am going to go take care of myself so that I can, not stopping at I'm going to take care of myself, because it can easily just stop there. It's like, no, it's so that I can.
For sure. I think the magic of intent is so cool. It's an art that sometimes isn't necessarily seen, but it's felt. And I've said this a few times, but our conversation's making me think of it, so I'm going to say it again. But you live this too, and I think you're going to do a really good job of this with comp train as well, which is when you work with your hands, you're a laborer. When you work with your hands and your mind, you're a craftsman. And when you work with your hands, your mind, and your heart, you become an artist.
Beautiful. Wow.
And I think seeking to understand and coaching the human first, and that doesn't have to just be in fitness. That can be a leadership style. That can be a parenting strategy. I think when you do it with what I call gas, which is you truly give a shit, and you lead with your heart, inevitably it's like it's painting a canvas, which is where we started our conversation today, which is super cool. And that's something that you did with this capital P word, persistence, in your pursuit to get to UW.
Yeah.
And you have a family history of family members attending the University of Washington, and you were focused and persistent around, that's where I want to play. What was that experience, and how'd you make that happen?
Man, that was looking back now that I have more perspective on life, and I've gone through some more challenging things in life. It's hard to say that was hard, but like in the moment when you're an 18-year-old, just fresh out of, or in your senior year of high school, and your whole life revolves around football and that kind of thing, like that's the pursuit and the dreams that
your identity at the time.
Yeah, at the time, like I was like, man, like this is a challenge, and one that I'm so thankful that I pursued, and we can get into that in a second. But I wanted to play at UW. That was it. I had other offers. I had smaller schools, Division IIs, Division IIIs. NAIA is all available to me to go play at. The two schools that I was really starting to come down to was Boise State and UW. I was in communication with both of them. Both of them, there was a really good opportunity to be a preferred walk-on, but there was also starting to have the conversations of scholarships at them. But I really wanted to go to UW. That also, my senior year was the year that UW had the worst record in the Pac-12, and they went 0-12 that year. And so,
brutal.
oh man, it was not a good time to be a dog. But when after that season, the whole
I think their basketball team was good at that time, though.
they were, yep, they were,
Was that Nate Robinson and
yeah,
Brandon Roy at
yep,
that time?
yeah. You're good.
Nice.
You're good. Yeah, I dig it. I
Looking
dig
out,
it.
man.
Their coach, anyways, the football coaching staff they were all fired, and so like the people that I was talking to that I had gone down to the UW camp and met and like really started to communicate with, like all of a sudden everything was just gone, and I was like, well, like I got to start over, and like I don't even know where to start. Like the only reason why they really got these communications is because I went down to a training camp and performed pretty well and started to have conversations, um, and so I didn't really know what to do, and I wanted to play at UW for a handful of reasons. And that was like, this is really where I wanted to be. So I signed myself out of high school because I was 18 at the time. So like you could do that, at least at our school. Signed myself out, took my game film and a resume, and I went down to UW's campus to the athletic department. Fumbled my way around the athletic department, like, hey, where do I go to talk to a coach, a football coach? And eventually found my way into the coach's office. And in the waiting room, they said like, well, you can take a seat and we can see if Coach Thomas can come out and talk to you in a little bit. That was the running backs coach at the time, the new running backs coach. I was like, okay. And he sent out like maybe 4 different people to like take my tape and to, like send me on my merry little way. And I was like, no, I would really like to talk to Coach Thomas. Like, thank you. You know, like I just like, and all I want to do is I just want to give him the elevator pitch of why I am the type of kid that he wants on his team. Like, I just need that. I just need 60 seconds. Like, give me that. And I ended up spending over like 4 hours, 4.5 hours with a handful of people. It was actually a really amazing experience. I also got to meet one of the longest standing alumni at the time, and like we sat and shot the breeze for probably 45 minutes, and he told me all about like the history of
Nice.
UW. Like it was a really, when you look back on it, it was a really cool experience, but it was also nerve-wracking, man. Like just sitting there, and every time that they would send somebody out to like take my tape, you could tell that they were getting a little bit more annoyed and like, will you just leave, please? Like he's in meetings, he's got to go. And every time they said it, they said it a little bit more aggressive and like, he's busy. Like we got a lot going on. He eventually came out and he had no patience for me. He had, I mean, just what? Like, and I gave him a quick, like 30 second, maybe 15 seconds spiel. Like, this is why. And well, I'll run through a brick wall. I'll go get you ice cream. I don't care what it is. Like, I'm your guy kind of thing. And he was like, cool, thanks. And then just, okay. And I kind of walked out like, what is this? 2 weeks or so went by and I was like, I hadn't heard anything. So I start calling. I'm like, fine. Like, I'm going to call his office and left voicemail. And every week, I think for 3 weeks, I would call, just check in, like, hey, just wondering if you got my tape, wondering if you looked at things, just wanted to be able to have a conversation surrounding it. He eventually called me back. He's like, all right, man, here's your chance. Like, sounds good. Like, we'll bring you on kind of thing. And it was really cool. And, so I came on as a preferred walk-on, had the chance to do that, earned my scholarship my freshman year. Made the starting kick return. That's also an amazing story, but getting to my opening game that I got to play on was at Notre Dame, opening kickoff as the kick returner. Like,
Wow.
dude, it's a memory for a lifetime.
I got goosebumps just thinking about that. Just, watching Rudy.
Yes.
And you mentioning being a preferred walk-on. Like,
Yes.
It sounds like you possessed a Rudy mentality of like, I'm not taking no for an answer. I will put my head through a brick wall for you, for this organization, and for myself and my reputation as well. And I just love hearing this story every time you tell it because I don't know, man. Like I just feel like recruiting it's a really hard job. Yeah. And so often recruiters put so much value on the word potential.
Yes.
The size, the accolades, the statistics. who this athlete could become as opposed to who they are.
This episode is brought to you by Mush. My friends over at Mush created an incredibly cool product of ready-to-eat overnight oats. And for those of you that listen to the podcast often, you know simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And Mush has done just that, as their products have no more than 7 clean ingredients that are dairy-free, gluten-free, with no added sugar. Mush started right here at Invictus, as they had a vision to create convenient, healthy, and clean nutrition. And this landed them on Shark Tank, where the famous Mark Cuban invested in them. Now they're found in retailers all over the country, including Costco, Sprouts, Target, and Whole Foods. Check out my friends over at www.eatmush.com.
And sometimes the potential doesn't pan out. And you got to give a shot to those people that have proven it day in and day out and possess, I guess Baker Mayfield popularized it, the walk-on mentality when he wore the walk-on shirt when he was getting drafted there.
It's really interesting that you say that, because it was part of the reason why I was actually interested in Boise State at the time as well, is because they had a deep history of successful walk-ons. And they had a culture in their program at the time, especially under Chris Peterson, that they looked at the character of the individuals and said, like, this is what we're going to build a program on, not just the potential of an athlete and a prospect, but instead, like, can the characters of these individuals be the thing that we build our program in? And so it was really hard to actually not want to, to decide to go to UW over that, because of that culture and that mentality. But
I think that level of culture, though, is so important, especially now that we look at like CrossFit training camps, because the character can have ripple effects.
Totally.
As Pat Vellner said on one of our conversations, you can spiral down or you can also spiral up. And that can be based on the culture and the work ethic and the character and the inclusivity. And how you train, how you carry yourself, how you respect the training facility. And it's just cool to see all the pieces kind of come together. But just going back to that kick return at Notre Dame, what was that like? Can you describe that?
Man, it was surreal. It was so cool. It's just like, I remember details. Do you know what I mean? Like, I remember how tall the grass was, and like their field was different than, because they had a grass field, and that's becoming fewer and far between in college stadiums and stuff. And it was like they cut theirs differently than a lot of other fields cut their grass, and I can still picture like the flower boxes that they have on the sidelines, at the lowest level of the stadium seats right before you get onto the field. They had flower boxes, and I can still picture those, like that. Like the whole setting was just like, I'm on the field at Notre Dame. This is amazing.
What's also really cool about this is, I think me and Danny Spiegel talked about this at Wadapalooza, and that is, so many people go out to the competition and they're so focused on their nervousness and the anxiety of the workout that they forget to pause and just like look up.
This is amazing.
And it's just so cool that like you took the time to do that at such a young age before anybody told you to do so. Yeah. I'm sure you've done it at the CrossFit Games a few times where you're like, wow, like one day I won't be back here. Well, I don't know if that'll happen to you, but for other people.
Totally.
Oh,
no,
man.
but so like that's super interesting. I love that you brought that up, because that is something that I wish more athletes would do when they're at the CrossFit Games, and in athletics in general, especially before the start of something. And there's an incredible experience if you're willing to see it, if you're willing to look at it. But right before an event, right before like the standby, like if you get on there and we get the 1 minute call, just to stop for a second, take a deep breath, and glance up, especially when you're like on the Coliseum floor, you're in the tennis stadium or any of those arenas, and you see 10,000 sets of eyes staring at you. It can be crippling for some athletes. I get that. And so if it is they keep their head down, that's fine. But if you can get outside of that and stop and breathe in the experience that there is 10,000 people staring at something that you now get to go do and express, it's a profound experience. And it's really cool, and something to be grateful for, honestly, because it is so uncommon on this earth. And it's
Cool, you got a gift for storytelling now. The way you get into the details and the flower boxes, like, I think there might be a book in your future.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
That'd be pretty rad. Well, we've talked about some of your story, but I think some people want to know about this CrossFit.
Oh, yeah.
How did you ultimately find your way into CrossFit? What led you from football into the CrossFit realm?
Oh man, he was my dude, Cody Denham. He was my guy. He was my best friend growing up. His dad and my dad were best friends, and so like it was like this is like we're second generation best friends. It's actually
That's right.
It was him and his younger brother. They're like a year and a half or so apart, something like that, and I'm smack dab in the middle. I was good friends with Cody, but Travis and I were in the same grade together, and so like we were just like we ran together, and so like we were all just super close. I would count both of them as my best friends growing up, childhood to get best friends, and now Travis has a son the same age as my son, and so like we got like
That's
three generations
incredible.
going on.
The irony there, that's special.
Yeah, it's really pretty. Cody and I, we walked through some stuff together in young adulthood, and he was in the Army, he was in the military. And so we went through walked through some of those challenges that he experienced, at the time, and really just developed a deep bond. Well, while he was in the Army, he got into CrossFit. Actually, I'll say it this way. He became a fan of CrossFit and started watching CrossFit Games footage, started listening to some of the videos that some of the top athletes were, putting out. They weren't putting out at the time, but that people were putting out of them. And he had this great idea that he was like, hey, you're going to start doing CrossFit, Cole, because this is way cooler than football. He didn't really like football to begin with. Like, he was a motocross racer. Like, he raced dirt bikes his whole life. He was actually extremely good and could have been a wonderful professional at that. But, life circumstances kind of was, he was kind of a doofus sometimes, so, but he, he was like, hey, like, you're going to give up this dream of playing football and you're going to start doing CrossFit. And I was like, no, man, like, heck no, I'm not going to do CrossFit. It is lame. Like, they do push-ups and pull-ups with bands, and I'm just not interested. Football's the way it's...
Isn't it funny, like, the perception of, like, a high-level Division I athlete? You look at CrossFit, you're like, why would I do that? Like, and then you get into it, and it just punches you in the face with humble pie.
Now I look back at high-level Division I athletes, I'm like, you guys don't even know what training is. Like, you have no idea.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
So, he was like, hey, man, like, stop being so arrogant and just hear me out. Watch these videos. And he sent me a video of Rich Froning and Dan Bailey talking about their faith and the positive impact on the community that they hope to have. He didn't send me CrossFit Games footage. He didn't tell me to do a workout. We didn't do a workout together. He just said, go look at this video of these top guys in this sport wanting to make a difference in this community. And to have dude, this is everything that we've been talking about for the last 5 years. And that was, Cody was such a beautiful soul. Sorry. I've lost Cody, in the last year. So, and it's his birthday weekend this weekend. So sorry.
I'm definitely with you, my man. And I definitely think that this is a special commemorative fun conversation to explore his memory, his legacy, the magic that he brought into the world. And not to mention, that's top-notch sales.
Right?
He didn't just sell you on the X's and O's. He met you where you were at and was like, I know what ignites Cole's fire. And I'm going to share that version of CrossFit with him, which is going to lure him into doing all the physical things that he's done his entire life. And so, huge shout out to the loving memory of your good friend Cody for, I mean, now giving you and all of us observing your story a decade of memories and some really cool insights into the human development that comes through doing hard things.
Absolutely. And that's something that he and I talked about a lot of, like, man, like, what kind of growth can we have if we choose to challenge ourselves every day and like pick something hard and then, like, let's do it and do it really well and develop, like what we were talking about earlier, of if we can develop this within ourselves, we will have more to give and we'll be able to have a positive impact. And he was my guy in the start of that pursuit. And so, he was the sole reason why I got into CrossFit. I hadn't done, I was like, okay, I'm in, I will go to the CrossFit Games. I'm, I had that confidence because I played Division I football. I had looked at all the numbers that people were lifting. It's like, okay, there's a handful of things that I need to develop, but like, I can develop that. Like, I know what that looks like. I know how to train. I know, like, so like, I just got to learn a couple things. It wasn't easy. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, I'm not knocking that, but it was hard. It was difficult to, especially learning gymnastics things and things that I had never really done a lot of as a football player, but I had experienced so much growth as an athlete over my life that I knew it was possible. And so I kept that mentality of like, hey, like, I'm going to go to the CrossFit Games. There are things that I need to learn, and I don't have the ability right now, but I know that it can be developed. I know it can be developed, so I'm going to develop it, and I'm going to work on it, and I'm going to beat it. And, sure enough, I started to be able to walk on my hands. I started to be able to do ring muscle ups and bar muscle ups and all of those things. And it's because it's just day after day, rep after rep, and a deep commitment. And it was interesting because I was like, I hadn't committed to going to the CrossFit Games after I'd done a workout. Like, I hadn't done a workout yet. I hadn't even done a CrossFit workout. And I think it's a really fun part of the story because it's like, you find an aim, you find something that you want to do, and just go after it. You don't need good definitions and good reasons. Like, if it beckons you and it calls your heart forth, go for it. Like, and so that's a really fun part of the story for me. And then I did my first CrossFit workout and it kicked my tail. And it was tough.
The other thing that I want to pull from this is just the mentality of confidence because of the lifetime reps that you had put in up until that point. You had so much intrinsic motivation and confidence that you could do the things that you were observing the CrossFitters at the time doing because of the work ethic that you possess, the exposure to sport at a young age, the unique curiosity, the understanding and comparative traits that come with masculinity, really, of like, oh, if that person can do it, I can figure it out.
Sure.
And I just think that's part of the human nature. And it's just so cool to hear that you even skipped your pro day to then go all in on CrossFit. And quite the gamble,
I know. I know.
Oh man.
But it's wild.
That's
it's wild
stuff
too, because it's like I obviously have some friends that they went the football route, and I have some I had some good friends that played in the league for a couple years, and they had good, but now that time is gone, come and pass, like they're out of it, and their platforms and things like that never really grew beyond just like, oh, I was a football player for a couple years. And not that that's not the metric, I'm not saying that, but I knew that I wanted to build a platform. And it's just easy for me to think back and like, well, had I gone down that route, like, would I have even had the opportunity to build the platform that has now been built because I did CrossFit? And it's like, it's just a really interesting, example there of just like, you just never know what can come about, and just to have some hope and some faith. And again, let the things that beckon you forth, like, just pull you and go for it, kind of thing. And
when that whisper inside starts getting a little bit louder and the volume turns up, allow it to be your compass.
Absolutely.
And it's allowed you to squeeze a lot more out of your athletic potential and extend the duration for sure. Because you and I both know the life cycle of an athlete's very short. I mean, NFL stands for not
Exactly.
too long. The average career of an NFL player is 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, their contracts aren't guaranteed like they are in the NBA and the MLB. And so the life cycle in pursuit of high-level football is definitely challenging. Absolutely. And unfortunately, the world that we live in, once you lose that title of NFL football player, like you said, the platform starts to dissipate a little bit, unless you can do what I think you're going to pursue later on, and kind of what I've done a little bit, which is there's transferable skills. Yes. When you realize the lessons that you are accumulating, you're opening doors, you're fostering relationships, you're filling yourself so much with the pursuit of maximizing human potential and peak expression that inevitably you find some sort of path to continue doing that, just in a different capacity, or as you've talked about, a different intention. Yeah. And I'm really excited to explore that and see you do that, you know, in the next few years. I got to chat a little bit with Noah Olson, and he was pumped to connect with you on this decade of CrossFit Games experience for you guys. And Cole, it's been so awesome to cross paths with you. And as we wrap things up, man, I just wanted to poke your brain a little bit. Is there a moment within your CrossFit career, or maybe a CrossFit Games experience or workout, that really stands out to you? That's just like that one particular thing, or that picture, that memory was really special to your heart? Yeah,
the one that's a really special moment for on the competition floor was actually there's a clean ladder in the tennis stadium back in 2016. And I think the reason why it stands out, it was the most electrifying experience that I've ever had on a competition floor. And so that one is just a very vibrant memory for me. I was at the final bar, really struggling to hit the final bar. Failed it a couple times. I kind of step back, take a deep breath, and I go in for a buzzer beater kind of idea. And I stand up the final bar, which I think was maybe 325 back then, and stand it up with like 5 seconds left and cross the finish line. And it is the full part and ethos of what the CrossFit community has been and what I want it to continue to be, where the person last on the floor gets just as much praise and excitement and energy as the person who came across them first. And the stadium erupted. And it was because they saw somebody who had challenge and hardship right before them, and they watched them overcome it. And that is an extremely inspiring thing to watch and be a part of. And that is what's so beautiful about the competition floor, is because, and it's why I love competition. It's why I love being out there. It's because people come to competition to watch what's the inspiration, the inspiring things that are happening right before them. And they want to be moved by it. They want to be like, and it's why they give those big cheers whenever they see somebody overcome something, because we can resonate with that. All of us are going to be faced with hardship and challenge, and sometimes we're not going to be triumphant, and a lot of times we are. And that's something to cheer for in life, on the competition floor. And so for me, that moment really stands out because it solidified the pursuit I had set out for in the sport to begin with. And that is develop everything that I can, overcome hardships, challenge yourself as much as you possibly can. And then that way you can help somebody else overcome challenges and hardships that they're going to face down the road in some way. And I don't know who that person is. I don't know when I'm going to come across them. I don't know if I'll know them personally. Like, I don't know. But if I have developed that in myself, maybe I can change the trajectory of somebody's life, and I can help them overcome a challenge when life kicks them in the face, you know? So
That's beautiful, Cole. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your truth
Yeah, man.
and giving me and our listeners and our viewers a gentle peek behind the curtain of all things
Totally.
Cole
Absolutely.
Sager.
Thank you.
I look forward to crossing paths with you again soon. Good luck with CrossFit Games training.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you out in
Yeah,
Madison.
Bryce, this was really fun. It was great to connect with you. So thank you for the time and thank you for the conversation.
Likewise, man. For those of you observing on YouTube or listening on Apple or Spotify, if you enjoyed my conversation with Cole Sager today, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And as always, stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Till next time, guys.
Love it.
We are beyond excited to be working with Wizard Sciences for total brain and body optimization. This partnership came through personal experience with the benefits of their incredible product line and a deep human connection with their founder and former guest, Ion Mitchell. I also love the Neural RX, which I take before every podcast. Some of the benefits I experience when taking the Neural are enhanced memory and focus, supercharged learning and knowledge absorption, along with enhanced creativity and innovation. Break free from mental blocks, tap into your imagination, and watch your creativity soar to new heights. Give Wizard Sciences a try and become as close to limitless as you can get. Use code Invictus Mindset for 15% off your order. Once again, that's Invictus Mindset for 15% off your order. Are you over 35 and in need of a solid training program? Are you looking to improve your athleticism and keep up with the younger athletes in your CrossFit gym? Then look no further than our Invictus Masters program. This program places year-round emphasis on mobility and stability exercises with movements that we have seen directly benefit our Masters athletes. Our program is led by Nicole DeHart and offers a training program designed specifically for Masters athletes who are looking to compete at a higher level in the sport of CrossFit. Some of our top Masters athletes in the world train with us, including CrossFit Games champion Kevin Kester, Matt Beals, and Pat Sprague. You can learn more about their stories and the Invictus Masters program by checking out their episodes right here on the Invictus Mindset Podcast. If you'd like more information about the current training cycle or to join the Invictus Masters program, please email Nicole at invictusathlete.com. That's NICHOLE at invictusathlete.com.